So tell us about this thriving startup scene that we have in France.
Yeah, Guy, when you think about France and technology, you may have negative images of the government trying to delay the sale of Dailymotion or the resistance that we've seen against the Uber Pop car service. But the reality is that France has a thriving startup scene. You've got famous examples such as Criteo, which is now listed on the Nasdaq, valued at $2.6 billion. Deezer, BlaBlaCar, seeking to raise as much as $1 billion. Now, French digital companies don't contribute as much to GDP as in the UK, only 5.5% of GDP in France compared to 10% in the UK according to McKinsey, but that number keeps growing. And unlike what you might think, there's actually a relative lack of red tape in France. It actually takes less time to start your business in France than in the UK or Germany. Now, I spoke with one very ambitious French startup. It's Sigfox. They want to be the leader of the Internet of Things. They want to create the network for connected objects. So instead of focusing on big data, they actually want to focus on small data, transmitting very simple messages from connected objects. It can be a billboard, appliances in your home, or even your pet. I spoke with the CEO of Sigfox, Ludovic Lemoine, about whether he's planning an IPO soon.
The IPO I think it will depend on the business traction, but obviously it should be in the US. So maybe we plan to have an introduction IPO in Nasdaq, New York, and when I think maybe 2017 should be the right time. And regarding the fundraising, we have to see opportunities and see how things are going, but maybe next year.
Sigfox is already backed by Samsung. They raised $115 million earlier this year, and now the CEO told me they're planning an IPO as soon as 2017.
Let's talk about what the French digital minister told you. What did she say about the reforms that are in progress? What's she focusing on?
Of course, her priority is to make it even easier for French startups. The President Hollande actually traveled to California. That was the first time a French president traveled there in 30 years. And of course, they want also to attract the big giants in France. You've got companies like Google or Facebook. We've already opened a big headquarters in France. But there is the issue of taxation because, of course, Google uses techniques such as the double Irish to avoid paying taxes in France. So I asked the digital minister how she's planning to tackle this tax issue.
We are in theory in a capacity to ask these companies to pay their taxes, but at the moment we're dealing with each cases on an individual basis. The problem is probably to reform the set of rules at a larger level. So we have to work on both sides. Sometimes it ends up in litigation with these companies at the national domestic level, but then at the European level we have to find an agreement amongst all the European members, and there's a common will at the moment to go in that direction.
The French digital minister wants to tackle this tax issue at the European level, and at the national level we'll see reforms presented later this month in France, reforms that may include a reform of the labor law for startups.